Today we're going to talk about how to leverage MDF resources. It's amazing now that we're coming to the end of the year. It's estimated through a lot of different research that vendors set aside around $50 billion every single year for marketing development funds. And based on stats, only half of those, or basically around $25 billion worth of marketing development funds, are actually used. And so what I wanted to talk about today was more of a reminder for everyone to leverage these resources to growing your business. And as we've discussed in the past, there's really three main ingredients when it comes to developing a strong and effective marketing strategy for your business. The foundation to any good strategy is the lead exchange. The lead exchange really helps reduce the burden of customer acquisition and spreads out the workload among multiple members. And so if you're going to have a success and really lower your customer acquisition costs, you have to have a lead exchange. We have a training on that which you can review in further detail. Just check out the YouTube channel. The second most important factor in lowering your customer acquisition costs is specialization. Specialization makes your conversations relevant, which ultimately earns you the attention span of your prospects. Without specialization, you can't expect your prospects to pay attention to anything that you're saying. It has to be relevant. And of course, the third aspect is the execution, which requires money and resources. And that's why we're talking about marketing development funds today, because there's $25 billion, like we mentioned in the beginning, left over at the end of each year that are unspent. And the main reason is because folks are either forgetting to utilize the marketing development funds, or they need to come up with a good plan to actually spend them. So let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about what we should be doing in order to secure these funds. Not all companies or vendors will have a formal program. Some are more formal than others. But any company is willing to give you money if you can give them a good plan of action. So your first step is to become somewhat semi-exclusive and very strategic with just a few vendors. What this does is it makes it a lot easier for them to invest in you. If you're going to spread your business around across lots of vendors, it's much harder to secure these funds. So it's important to become strategic and try to place your bets within a few different vendors. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even if a company doesn't have a formal MDF program where they essentially have money set aside, if you can come up with a plan that provides a positive ROI, then you're going to find that they're going to make the money available for you. And so the first step is to come up with some ideas. These are just a few examples in terms of hiring interns, purchasing lists, postcard or three-dimensional type campaigns in terms of physical mail, trade shows, lunch and learns, Upwork projects, so you can hire somebody temporarily, kind of like an intern, online advertising, or even re-engaging with existing clients, which is something that you can basically have these vendors pay for in order to help you do an outreach to those clients and stay on top of that. There's a lot of different ideas. I would recommend listening to our previous discussion 2 weeks ago on the top 10 strategies for acquiring managed IT customers. There's a lot of different tidbits that you can gain from that call in terms of how to spend marketing development funds. Also a great resource is the book Giftology. We've mentioned it before on our calls, but this is a really excellent resource for identifying the most effective ways of spending money. But ultimately, once you come up with a strategy, before you ask for money from a vendor, it's usually a good idea to run a few small experiments, enough so that you can at least provide some results. And when you do provide the results and the plan to your different vendors, you don't want to start with something large, you want to start with something small, otherwise you'll get shut down pretty fast. And so start out slow, walk before you run, and you'll find that over time your vendors will invest more and more in you. And this is really essential to your lead exchange relationships. Taking your relationships to the next level really requires the exchange of money. And when you get to that level, you become much more strategic. And this is something that's really essential to making a stronger bond among you and your lead exchange members. If you want to make this if you want to make your lead exchange programs work, you really need to do co-marketing and work with each other and make sure that you're working with the right types of relationships. So anything that you sell within your lead exchange needs to be complementary. And it can't be something that competes with each other or has a lot of overlap, or there isn't a very direct relationship between what you sell and what they sell. It needs to be something that helps complement each other and strengthen the overall product offering. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. Again, this is short and to the point, but it's mainly designed